Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting episode of Loss of Lieutenant. Tonight, we have episode 160 and a return to our Back to Basic series with Drop Troops. This has been, I want to say, highly requested for us, I suppose. And
I think this episode has been in the works for at least like 4 months.
Yeah, I think we've been saying for about 6 months.
It has been in the pipeline for like 4 months, and then next wave happened.
I'm pretty sure we were like at Borderbash in a bar with like Taro and stuff. Yes. And they're like, can you make an episode on Drop Troops? We're like, yeah, sure, why not?
It was like Drop Troops and Deployment, I think were what they asked for.
Yeah, Deployment would take us like a whole year to make an episode on because that's so complicated. We could talk about Deployment for 5 hours. Instead, we're only going to talk about deploying Drop Troops for like 2.5 hours. But before we get into that, just a quick reminder, if you'd like to support us, you can head over to patreon.com/lossoflieutenant. You can give us a little bit of money, and for that, you can hop into our live chat. You can tell us how wrong we are. You can ask questions while we start talking about our silly little Australian ideas. And there might be, in the future, a couple of extra little Patreon awards that we're sorting out in the near future of some really cool stuff.
That might be related to the next thing Tristan's going to talk about.
It might be related to our lovely sponsor, Baron of Dice. If you're in the market for a lovely full set of Infinity Dice, or you're a transitioning 40k player who has bounced off Infinity and is for some reason watching this podcast, you can use...
so pretty.
Yeah, that's it. Because you like listening about Infinity rather than playing it. You can head over to Baron of Dice. You can put in the code LOSS, and that will get you 5% off checkout. They do have a Black Friday sale for 20% now, so if you decide maybe in like 2 weeks that you want to use our code, we'd really appreciate it. Moving on to our events. Now, if you guys have any events you'd like us to plug, please send them to us at lossoflieutenant@gmail.com. The ones we have right now are the Risky Roller Annual, which is going to be our road to CanCon, typically our a lead-up event to the main event, so people get some practice. This is going to be December 13th at the Gaming Arena. It is a $50 ticket price. However, that does come with catered lunch and a donation to the Smith family. The missions are Provisioning, Crossing Lines, and Hardlock, which are 3 of the CanCon missions, which we're going to talk about right now. It's CanCon. It's the Australian Nationals. It is the 25th, the 24th, and the 25th of Jan next year at Exhibition Park in Canberra. Tickets are $67, very specific. And the missions are Provisioning, which is Radial DZ Supplies, Area of Interest, which is Radial DZ Domination, Crossing Lines, which is double DZs, Corporate Appropriation, which is the prototype that you got to beat up, and Hardlock, which is Better Capture and Protect. I know that it's still too early for me to look at the names and know what they are. Like, I look at Corporate Appropriation, and I'm like, is that the Espionage one? I think there's one called Espionage as well. I could be wrong. What's the other one?
It is a very welcome to fucking ITS 17 motherfucker set of missions.
Yeah.
Like...
Whenever someone goes, do you want to play Corporate Appropriation? I go, is that the prototype one? And they go, yeah.
If someone told me, do I want to play Corporate Appropriation, I'd assume they're asking about a board game.
Like a werewolf ripoff or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, find the capitalist.
I think at this stage, the whole of Loss of Lieutenant is planning to go to CanCon?
Yeah, I believe so. Is Jacob the only one who hasn't said one way or the other?
Jacob's coming with me, boy.
Okay, cool.
So he's going to be there, so maybe, like last year, we might be able to do something, but I feel like we all punched each other in the face last time, because I think Nick played Josh round 2, and then Nick played me round 3, and Jordan didn't play. And Jacob wasn't there.
I didn't play in protest. I had a very petty CanCon experience. It was great though.
Yeah. So hopefully Loss of Lieutenant can pull out some stuff next January. All right.
We'll see.
Nick, why are we here? Oh my god, is this the wrong slide? No, okay, cool, sick.
Did the picture of the Razzie just confuse you?
It shouldn't, because I put it there.
You did all the background. Sorry. So we're here to discuss airborne deployment this episode. Kind of one of the in N4 it had some risk reward balance issues, and so it can be one of the underutilized aspects of Infinity. But N5 has improved it greatly and made it far more viable to run airborne deployment troops. On top of that, as you already mentioned, it was a quest. So yes, if you have episode requests, let us know. We will get to them eventually.
I think it was interesting because, like, you would hear, like, I feel like they got a big uplift in N4 when they added, border skirmishes as an ITS rule, which allowed you to deploy on the edge of a exclusion zone. But then they've removed it for ITS 17, but in N5 they got such a big bump anyway that it's like, well, people are already going to be playing these pieces. They were so underutilized, though. I think the only person I can actually recall in N4 who was, like, big on, like, airborne deployment troopers that weren't, like, parachutist DZ troopers was, like, Lewis. He was, like, a diehard for an airborne deployment trooper.
Yep. So
what were those changes?
Recap. The big changes from N4 and why are they good in N5. Alright, so most, not all, but most have gained super jump jet propulsion. This is going to give them plus 2 inches to their first move. And I kind of think, so the plus 2 inches is important. I think equally as important, it means pretty much every drop troop can kind of ignore like a building being in the way or a staircase being in the wrong spot or a ladder just being awkward. Drop troops can really just get where they want to go, and they're already starting out of your DZ anyway, so they're super efficient in that regard.
The other thing it does is it really lowers the punishment for failing a combat jump roll, because now instead of needing to slog like a 4/4 movement trooper up the board, you're instead essentially moving tag speeds.
Yes. Yep. We've talked about it a lot, but Sixth Sense is basically as uncommon of a skill as like Strategos now. So drop troops now can shoot the important ARO pieces in the back and not be getting shot back at on 16s, ignoring all the stuff. So that's another big thing, because drop troops typically have pretty average stats unless you pay a crap load of points for them. This is new to N5. Drop troops now generate their tactical awareness orders when they are first deployed. Same goes for hidden deployment troops or any off-the-table troops. Not generated during the order generation process, but generated on deployment, which is very good. And probably the most notable, pretty much all of them are either cheaper or have gained all of those extra skills for free. Which means pretty much every drop troop has gained something into the transition to N5. I'm not sure if there's any ones like the Garuda, for example, is the same points it was in N4.
It is now the best vehicle in the game.
But is now exceedingly quick and is still just as good at shooting in N4, whereas everything around it is pretty much worse at shooting. All right, cool. That's why we're talking. That's what makes them good in N5. Nick, go for it.
Can start by just talking about off-table troopers. It's a term that's used a fair amount of the community to refer to things that don't start on the board, but it's not an official term, so you can't actually look it up. Basically, this is going to be your airborne deployments, so parachutist and combat jump, and also hidden deployment. They share a couple of similarities in that it's private information that they exist. They occupy a slot in your combat group, even though your opponent doesn't know they're there. And they don't contribute an order to the order pool until they're on the table.
However, if it is private information, but if your opponent does ask, hey, what drop troops or hidden deployment troops exist in your sectoral, it is just sort of good. good etiquette to just tell them the list. You are not required to say anything else, though.
That is a good point. I would recommend if you're a new player and you're learning, ask your opponent if they go, you see 14 things on the table. That's them indicating to you that there might be something missing. You can ask them what that potentially is. They might give you 5 answers, but as you go along, I think it's good etiquette for learning because some of these troops you might not see very often, and it might completely catch you off guard if you don't think about it at the start of the game. And if someone asks you, I think it's, as Jordan said, I think it's good practice to be quite open with that information. It makes the game cleaner, I think.
It does. Like a good example. Sorry, Go, Nick. You go, and I'll go next.
It also speeds things up if you can ask and respond to that. Usually, I'll phrase it as, if I open up Army and search your faction for airborne deployment troops, what would I find? So, asking it where, like, I'm not asking you what's in your list, but I'm asking you what potentially could be there. This is information that is freely available, and you may be able to tell me quicker than I could look it up.
I think a good example of like how that actually works in practice is at Border Bash. I was playing against Mickey on what was he playing? He was playing Star Martyr, and he deployed, and he was like, "Oh, you see 14 things on the table." I'm like, "Oh, okay, so it could be what, like a Santiago or like what else?" And he told me the things, and I'm like, "Okay, so it's probably a Santiago," because like you hear a list of airborne deployment troopers, and you're like, "Which one's the good one out of that again?" Oh, it's that one.
Yep.
And then, sure enough, on his first turn, he was like, "Yeah, there's a Santiago coming down." I'm like, "Hey."
It could also be helpful because not all factions and sectorials have access to every type of off-the-table trooper.
Yes. Some factions, there'll be one potential off-the-table thing. Some factions like JSA, Oban, old JSA, someone will list 5 or 6 different units.
Yeah.
And you're like, you got the ninja that stabs really good, you've got the named ninja that throws smoke, and then you've got the named ninja that stabs really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And then you've got the named ninja in your TC.
Meanwhile, Morats have 2.
Yes.
Yes, you've got the I walk in behind you or I walk in on top of you and explode.
Yeah.
All right. Airborne deployment.
So it's all going to start off the table. And to get an airborne deployment trooper onto the table, they're going to spend their own order to deploy during the orders phase. There are a couple of interactions with how you can spend that order, notably impetuous. If you have an impetuous airborne deployment, it can spend its impetuous token and deploy during the impetuous phase. However, it forfeits its normal order doing so.
I think that's something that some people actually don't know. And they think that, like, for example, a Yan, like,
yeah, I read that and I'm like, I have definitely had people do a Yan, and then go, oh, and then he uses his
irregular order. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've definitely had that happen to me.
Well, if you need to explain it without just quoting, the order pool is generated before the impetuous phase. So the model was not on the table to generate its order.
Yep.
Therefore, if you deploy it later, there's no order generation phase left.
Yep.
You can also do a coordinated order for aerial deployment. In this case, you have to spend a regular order from your order pool, and it still causes every model that's off the board to forfeit their order. Again, because they never generated the order, it's just this nebulous pseudo order that they're holding off the table.
I think a good way to think of it is like, you're not spending your model's order to airborne deploy it. It's like a special ability that it can do it for free, essentially. Like, the order isn't generated in this weird separate group in the nether space. It's just, it can essentially do it for free. and like is basically doing it for free. Like the fact that it has or doesn't have an order doesn't matter.
That is a better way to think about it, because then you don't have to worry about order generation versus pool. It's just it can, without spending an order, deploy itself, and then it works regularly from there.
Yeah.
Do note though that process is different for a trooper in hidden deployment. A hidden deployment trooper uses a short skill to become either a camo marker or itself on the table, and you get both halves of that order.
Well, I think we're getting to it after this one. All right, parachutist deployment.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yeah, this is definitely the one that I have used the most. So parachutist deployment must be on a surface of the game table that fits the base in contact with the board edge, and it cannot be prone. It can be within the enemy DZ.
I think it's not parachutist deployment. It's deploying a parachutist trooper.
Oh, well, the picture of DeRock fucked me there.
Yeah, that's fine. This is just parachutist.
Yeah, sorry, this is just regular old parachutist. It cannot be prone within the enemy DZ in silhouette contact with enemy or neutral models, markers, tokens, or any scenario objective.
I think the differing factor that I saw is combat jump, you can't be touching any piece of cover. Whereas parachutist, I think you can walk in and be touching cover.
But you do not get cover as you come in. I don't think that restriction's in
there anymore. You just don't get to use partial cover.
Yeah.
For the order that you land, yes. But let's say the combat jumper lands, the next order they start out of cover, whereas a parachutist could theoretically start their second order in cover.
Let me check, because if a combat jump lands on a building, then it would have cover on its next order from someone who is not.
Oh god, we're going to talk about infinity relativity. I have cover from this perspective, but not from this perspective.
I would like off Mr. Bones' wild ride, please.
I think combat jump specifically states you can't combat jump touching like terrain, whereas parachutist doesn't have that clause.
I'm going through it quickly.
I'm very sorry for everyone listening at home. We should put more effort into these episodes.
Well, no, we always find one of these weird rule niches every single time. Like, I don't think we've done an episode like this where we have not hit one of these. Like, but what about if this?
I don't see in combat jump where it has that restriction anymore. I think that was removed because they can't.
I think what's tripping us up. Yeah, what's tripping us up is literally that like when they come in, they don't get cover.
Oh, so you can combat jump touching a wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just can't deploy on like a fucking ledge.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we've also got combat jump deployment.
Yeah, there we go.
Woo!
Yeah.
Nick, you've done a fair bit of this with some dropsuit tryouts.
Oh, yeah. So, for deploying a combat jump model, it must be on a surface of the game table that fits its base, like parachutist, but doesn't have to be restricted beyond that. Like parachutist, it can't be deployed prone, and it can't be in silhouette contact with enemy models, neutral models, markers, tokens, or scenario objectives. But additionally, it can't be deployed inside a low pour or zero vis zone. So you can't parachute into smoke because you can't combat jump into smoke because that seems like a really bad idea.
Also, notably, I believe this caused a massive argument in our group chat. But you cannot combat jump a MSV trooper into white noise zone.
Yes, because it would be a zero vis zone for that trooper.
Imagine you had thermal goggles and you barrel rolled into like what's really bright, the sun. I don't know,
just a giant fart cloud.
Yeah. Like, you wouldn't do that, so it makes sense.
That caused such an argument.
Additionally, they can't be deployed inside of a building or an enclosed piece of scenery. And the rules specifically call it objective rooms.
Yes.
As being an example of that. So for the missions that have objective rooms, no combat jump into them. I think it's just 2 at the moment, but
yeah,
I could be wrong.
Yeah, last launch
right.
and Attacker Defender, because I don't remember its name.
That one.
Critical intervention.
That's it.
Hey.
This is the one where I'm going to get this right. So, combat jump can't jump into smoke, obviously, but parachutists can walk into smoke.
Yes.
There you go. I still got it.
Well, because parachutist is walking.
Yes.
Combat jump is arriving at high velocity and needs to stick the landing.
This
they
is
don't want to find out that there's punchy spikes right where their DZ is.
This is Halo drop pod. Just imagine that. That's how fast you go.
It's a Helldiver pod.
It's a Helldiver pod. Yeah. All right. What is the process?
For the Zoomers in the audience that don't know what Halo is.
Oh, no, that's impossible.
Mm.
All right. What is the airborne deployment process?
So it's got some similarities between the two. Parachutist is the more simple one, where you declare, you spend the off-board order, you place the airborne deployment troop and any of their deployables, and then your opponent declares arrows. Pretty simple. Because it's a long skill, it means you can't use stealth for it, and it also prohibits benefiting from partial cover for that order. In future orders, you can benefit from it, but it assumes that you have moved from somewhere that wasn't touching that object to it. Combat jump's a little bit more complicated, where you declare that you're spending the order from off the board. You deploy the air deployment troop wherever and place any of their deployables. So this would be stuff like if you have a mine layer, if you have decoy, that type of stuff. At this point, there's a special ARO window for the Evo Hacker program controlled jump. Because that can modify the roll that's about to happen. After your opponent's decided if they're doing that or not, or they have the option to, you make the combat jump roll. It's usually a fizz roll, or it may have its own special value modified by controlled jump. If you succeed, excellent. Proceed on to AROs. If you fail, you lose all marker states and all the deployables. So that means your inventory goes down. And you have to redeploy in your deployment zone touching your board edge. It's definitely some risk reward there. But as you mentioned before, because most combat jump models now have super jump jet propulsion, the recovery from that failure state is more forgiving.
Yeah.
At that point, opponent can declare AROs, unless they're the hacker who declared an ARO earlier, because it's still the same order. And with the same contingencies as parachutist, it's a long skill, so no stealth, and you can't benefit from partial cover during that order.
Yep.
Absolutely. I think, now that I've just thought about it, one of the scariest things that could happen is someone goes to combat jump. You don't have to declare your ARO until after you make the roll. So people don't have to reveal their hidden deploy stuff or anything like that until after they know you've passed or failed. And this is a process of the game that I think people get wrong. I think they put their model on the table. I think they ask for AROs, and then I think they roll. I think that's semi-frequent. Maybe not with everyone.
Part of that's because there is a special ARO window there for Evo Hacker. But also, it's kind of reflexive of this model just appeared here, so everything around it I'm going to declare an ARO for.
Yes.
But that position on the board hasn't been finalized.
Yes.
So you have to wait until you know where that model actually appeared before you know what arrows can be declared.
Yes. So you don't have to reveal your hidden deployment guy until after you know the roll is successful or not, which means there is no like baiting out of like arrows or something with like a double decoy bashi bazooka or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind because I think HD arrows are getting slightly more popular now as N5 chugs along. All right. Modifiers. Jordan, this is what you've been waiting for.
Oh boy, let's talk about some sick modifiers. So we've got Parachutist Deployment Zone, ignores the restriction on deploying into an enemy DZ. Controlled Jump, which is an Evo hacking program, which gives you a +3 and -3 to friendly enemy models' combat jump rolls. And Combat Jump Explosion! After determining the final deployment position, center a circular template over the AD Trooper. Everything else takes a PS8 arm save avoided if a successful dodge arrow occurs.
Do keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that the combat jump explosion is a different type of explosion to the regular explosion that like a Quang Shi has.
Yes.
So, yes, if you're used to Quang Shi, don't assume that the combat jump explosion is the same because it is slightly weaker.
I think that's why they're different versions of Explode. So the Explode skill, you've got Combat Jump Explosion, and you've also got Explosive Ammunition.
Yes. Maybe they should have called it something else. All right.
I think they did a good job at making sure they're all slightly different, at least, so not overlapping.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Nick, I woke up today and saw this lovely table. Explain to me the risk-reward factors of table deployments.
So, I want to just summarize before we go into examples and discussion of it. As far as reactivity, like how much can you change the deployment to react to the changing board situation? When is it locked in where that model's appearing? The positioning options, so where can it appear? And the risk, basically, can it fail? So for parachutists, kind of medium reactivity, because you can declare it when you deploy them at any point during the game. However, you're restricted to the board edges. Whereas Combat Jump has the highest reactivity. You can deploy it anywhere on the table, other than exclusion zones. And Hidden Deployment has the lowest because you deploy it during your deployment phase. It's locked in before the game starts. For positioning options, Parachute is limited to board edges. Combat Jump can be almost anywhere, though Hidden Deployment is restricted to whatever your standard deployment restrictions were. So either inner deployment zone, or if it's got forward deploy or infiltrate, apply those as normal. That means Hidden Deployment has the lowest risk. It has basically no risk. It can't fail. And when you reveal it, they immediately are spending their order, so they can't get shot for free. Whereas Parachutist has minimal risk in that it can't fail, but you have to work to avoid you're giving your opponent a free arrow. Because if you appear and they see you, they can shoot you, and that would potentially lead to a situation where the model never gets to act.
Yep.
Combat Jump has, as I said, a more moderate risk because it does have a failure state. You could just not be able to deploy there, on top of the arrows that you can take. So, kind of the more risk, the more reactive and the better positioning options you get a more risky deployment option.
It's worth noting for the new players that I think there is only one combat jump model in the game that doesn't have parachutist, being the Knight of Santiago. From memory, two?
Cascuda.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So 2 models.
It's very rare, is what Tristan's trying to say.
So it's not as if you take a combat jump trooper and it's always going to be a moderate risk. You have the option to parachutist as well. So that gives it a lot more flexibility in terms of I'm in a good state. I don't need to get as much out of my drop troop as possible, so I can be less risky with it and just get little bits with it. Or I'm in a losing state. I really need him to do 2 or 3 things in a row. Balls to the walls. He's dropping here. Give me a 12.
Generally,
that's a good point.
Yeah, generally, if a trooper only has combat jump, it's for a reason. The profile will usually be either cheaper or will have more equipment than a lot of parachutists would normally have. Or it is, there are reasons why those troops exist. Sometimes I think as well, it's just because CB thinks it's cool. Like the Knight of Santiago doesn't have parachuters because he's just too cool for it.
Dude,
is the Crusader Brethren the same?
No, it has both.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, can you imagine a Cascuda just walking in from the side of the table? Yeah. You're like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. There are 2 more that I had forgotten about. Net rods and
Immatrons.
Yeah, Immatrons.
But those are weird exceptions because they don't activate. So
and you never drop them during your turn. So they're not.
If they had a repeater, I'd drop them in my opponent's DZ.
We don't need Josh here right now. Don't need his crazy ideas.
No, that was my idea first.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh God, we don't need your crazy ideas, Jordan. Don't listen to him, CB. And if you do, make it like 20 points because that's
be so funny.
That's fair. All right.
I will sacrifice 1 order I get to put a repeater in your deployment zone on turn 0.
Hey, some people now would say that's fair and balanced because bandits exist. I'm just saying.
True. I'll roll a 9. Just
your background image is quite fitting as it is a combat jump repeater.
Yes, it is. All right, let's talk about some general benefits and drawbacks of off the table drop troops. So, as we've talked about before, deployment is very, very flexible. They deploy pretty much anywhere on the table except for the no-go zones. And that kind of builds them as this, you can almost choose your level of risk reward. You can really push high risk, high reward. And I know Nick and I had a game last CanCon where Nick absolutely utilized that to the maximum of the high risk, high reward, and it paid off because Nick won the game. Another benefit is while they're off the table, you cannot kill them, which means that if you need special capabilities such as hacking or close combat skills, or they're the only trooper that can do a particular classified, they're going to be safe until you decide that you want to use them for that purpose. Mind games. Experienced opponents more than likely will realize when they're facing a drop troop. It does add to that level of mind games, and sometimes they will maybe not advance as far up the table, or they'll protect their LT a little bit more than they usually would. So sometimes even just the pressure of having a drop troop in your list kind of pulls your opponent back slightly. It's optional. Like, if you want to just run your Banshee, and I know Jordan's done this a few times, you just want to run your Banshee deployed on the table, you can do that. You don't have to risk the parachutist, you don't have to risk the combat jump. You can just chuck it on the table, and it's just a 6'4" super jumping dude.
I will say the only times I have done that have been, I think, when we played when they're like unmasking was a mission, or the year where Australia decided that every tournament needed to run biotech for a fucking panic room.
Yes.
And it was literally impossible to deploy it airborne.
Yes. Parachutist, we've talked about this. Parachutist, while predictable or more predictable, is incredibly dependable. Most tables, at least in our meta, will have spots that allow for parachutists to land safely. And comparing that to moving a trooper from your DZ, it's probably saving you 2 to 3 orders for doing that. And an interesting one that I haven't really considered yet, because I haven't run any drop troops in N5, it's the radial deployments. And if you calculate your parachutists actually have more total area that they can land in. Whereas it also makes your failed combat jump rolls really, really sad because they are going in the right back of your DZ. Some drawbacks. Obviously, you're missing orders from your pool until you drop that trooper. So if you don't drop him turn 1 or turn 2, that's 2 orders that you do not have. Though you could argue it's potentially only 1 order because it's kind of using its own order to drop, or it's not spending any resources to drop. Taking multiple drop troops increases the dependency your list will have on those troops making a return. So if you're taking 3 drop troops, you really need to get your points worth out of those 3 drop troops because you've probably sacrificed a fair bit to get them in the list. Obviously, failing combat jump rolls is a big drawback. It can be hard to get some types of drop troops back in the game, especially the ones that are kind of equipped with like an SMG or a light shotgun, and it might take them 4 or 5 orders to kind of get into range of doing something if there's no objectives in the center of the table or something like that. And obviously, if your opponent's incredibly skilled and they know you have a parachutist, they can make deployment very hard. If they cover all their troopers with multiple AROs, they can make it very difficult for you to get in there and do stuff efficiently. What do you guys think?
You gave me a thought, and I'm adding to the end of the episode.
Ooh, okay.
So yeah, I think the last part is one of the more variable ones where, depending on your opponent's skill level, that will change how the potential of your drop troops. Someone who is more experienced and has defended their deployment zone against parachutist deployment zone, and has a plan in their list for a drop troop coming into their deployment zone, will make it more difficult for you to use that drop troop as effectively. But if you also set your expectations based on your opponent knowing what's coming, that may help to temper it. Whereas if you play into a new player and you bring your Raziat on, and first off, you're a bad person. Don't do that to a new player. But that shouldn't be your expectation of what you're going to get out of that model. Because that's basically just a gotcha that your opponent didn't know how to react to.
Parachutist DZ can legitimately feel like, I don't know, top 5 of the most unfair things in the game at times.
Top 3.
Like, top 3, yeah. Like the first time as an Infinity player, when someone goes, I'm going to deploy a thing in your deployment zone now, you feel like someone just kicked your puppy.
Yep. As like, if you rock up, you got the new player, and they're like, what direction are your models facing? They're like, they're all facing forwards, mate, because that's where all your models are. I'm like, sweet. Durok in the back. And you're like, yeah, mate, sorry, turn them around. Yes.
Yeah, the first time you like kill 3 things with a Raziat, it's like, ooh, I have done a bad thing to a person today.
Yes. All right. Common drop troop strategies. Why are we taking them? All right. So these are kind of my limited ideas, because I go, some factions have better drop troop options than they have camouflage or hidden deployment options. The things that come to my mind are like next wave. Like the cliff jumper is so obviously much better than like the contrabandolero.
It's so pushed.
Except the name.
Except the name. O12. O12's drop troops are really, really good. They're for deployment stuff. Like they have the Moonrakers. They're not specialists, but like you have Gangbusters and Team Sirius. They don't start in a marker state, either of them, and they're not safe whatsoever, and they're quite honestly expensive for what you're getting. So the drop troops there are a lot more preferable to models like that. And then like Steel Phalanx. Steel Phalanx doesn't really have 4 deploy camo except for one, which is the Thyrios, which is camouflage 1 use. But Extremoy are absolutely insane. They are great. And you have a 20 low 20 point hacker that has 2 chain rifles. That's sick. The other thing I was thinking about is coming from my mindset of NCA now. Some factions lack mobile specialists and quick assault pieces. So for me, NCA has like Shona, and you're like, cool, what else do I have? And you're like, oh, nothing unless I take a Garuda. Bakunin is like very typically a slow army, and I know people are going to be yelling like, Uber full commando. And I'm like, yeah, but is it going to take you 6 orders to smoke your way up the table?
Yeah, they start in your DZ. Shut up.
Exactly. And then like Invincible army, and you go, they have a crap load of orders. And you go, yeah, until they hit a repeater and take 3 AROs from a hacker. Like, that's great. They don't really have close assault unless you're running your Gudin at them. All this to say, drop troops sometimes are just like the best option of taking fulfilling that role over things you might be more comfortable with. Like, people are probably more comfortable with hidden deployment and camo in general than they are with drop troops. Sometimes you just got to reach out, take the drop troops, and just learn how to use them. In saying that,
they're a good way to inject some uncertainty into a game as well. Like, I have played games, especially with Morats in N4, where I would take 14 order lists, not playing a Razziad, just playing 14 troopers, because it scares your opponent and it makes them deploy differently and it makes them play differently. And it makes the time where you do take a Razziad that much more effective because your opponent just isn't expecting it eventually.
Yep.
That really did only work with Morats, but I'm sure there were other factions you could sort of do something similar with. But yeah, it's a really good way to just inject a level of uncertainty into a game, and it's also it is a way to sort of, like, my mentality at times, fuck it, we ball. Sometimes there are no pieces better for that than parachutists, where you're like, I'm fucking, this guy's gonna go here, and we're gonna see what happens next, and I might just win the game off this.
Yep. I had a whole CanCon run predated on the fact that people were not expecting Margot and Durok because they thought they were bad. And I'm like,
I remember that CanCon run.
I'm like, I'm just shoving Margot and Durok in your face. You're like, what's in your DZ? I'm like, nothing. It's all in Margot and Durok. All right. So we are now going to talk about some common drop troop roles. Now, I think starting out with drop troops, you should try and well define what you want the drop troop to do. I think the worst thing you can do is go, I'll add this because it's cool. And if you don't know,
a clearly defined role in the list.
They need it. They do, because either you'll forget about it or you'll try and make it do something it's not meant to do and it won't work. And then you'll get really mad at the drop troop and it's not the drop troop's fault.
I will say, I don't think there are a piece in the game that requires you to define exactly what you want out of it more than a drop troop, because it is such a we've talked about how we're able to minimize the risk, but it is still a big concession to just not play the maximum number of models on the table at the start of the game.
Yeah, it's not even the points, the SWIC, the missing order. It's also you don't have a thing in your DZ. And if you swap the drop troop for something else, that might be another attack piece or another hacker or another camo marker with mine layer. Like, you have to realize what you're swapping out for it as well.
There's a cost.
Absolutely. So
most of these models can cover multiple roles.
Yes.
But like I said, when you write the list, you should have an idea of what role you want that model to fill so that you can focus on getting that model there and doing that. Absolutely. Sometimes other options open up, but having a goal of what you expect to do it helps you get there. Absolutely.
And have a realistic goal. Don't be like, I'm going to take this guy and he's going to murder 5 things if I spend 10 orders on him. Okay? No. Like, he doesn't need to murder 5 things. Maybe he only murders 2. And that's in... Yeah. And that equates to maybe 6 orders across the game. And you might have spent 3 to do that. And you're like, cool. He doesn't actually need to do more than that.
A 1 wound drop trooper should not be your attack plan for a list.
Yes. All right. In saying that, I think the most common reason why people are going to take drop troops, it's the flanking attack piece, or beginners, I should say. So we've got a couple of examples here, and we're going to talk about why they're good. So I've had an extra attack piece that gives opportunities that your opponent might not anticipate. And obviously, I'm incredibly biased towards my own faction, so I have picked the Garuda, which is the BS-12.
The best vehicle in the game.
The best vehicle in the game. It's BS-12. It's MIM-3. With Super Jump, it moves 10-2 in a single order. For that, you get a Spitfire for 25 points and 1.5 Swick, which is honestly pretty good. It's pretty cheap. It's really effective at what it does. Like BS-12 with MIM-3 is still really good. And it can jump 5 inches straight in the air and back down again. He's going to eclipse most buildings. So if you're prone on that building, he can just jump up, jump back down, and shoot you out of cover in your butt.
BS-12 BS-12 up, down, down is like, ooh, that is a sweet spot for a trooper.
In saying that, it is Fizzle Devon, which means the combat jump aspect is going to be slightly unreliable, even with controlled jump, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hackable. So if the DZ is covered really well with repeaters, it might be really difficult to use the Garuda effectively, but those are the trade-offs. Who wants to talk about the Razyat?
Oh, well, I think even though Nick's been playing Morats longer than me, I think I have more experience with the Razyat than Nick does. Yeah. It's much more of a club piece than I think someone with Nick's finesse as a player is gonna take. So the Razyat is kind of the quintessential attack piece drop troop. So it is a BS-12 4/4 moving guy with Whip 13, which is important, and Fizz 13, which is also important. He has combat jump, parachutist deployment zone, as well as dodge +1 inch, martial arts, and natural born warrior on CC 21. He is a religious troop because he's a Morat, and he also has stealth. So he's a combat jump, he's a parachutist with stealth, which is hugely important for getting into a DZ. He is also notably, like very, very notably, he is a medium infantry elite troop with D charges. He completes like 6 classifieds. But the reason most people take him is because he is a 34-point Spitfire with Eclipse grenades.
That starts in your opponent's DZ.
DZ. He can clear a DZ and then complete 6 classifieds.
And is probably just good enough at close combat that people are kind of iffy throwing close combat stuff at him.
So he's actually way better than he was last edition at close combat because of the small change that Natural Born Warrior received, where it doesn't turn off martial arts anymore. It turns off negative CC modifiers. So in previous editions, he really didn't want to walk up to like a flash pulse spot and punch it, or like a motorized bounty hunter and punch it.
Yep.
Now, however, he can walk up to those pieces and those para CC weapons don't do shit.
Yep.
Yeah, it will also think of its close combat abilities compared to what's still in your opponent's deployment zone on turn 2.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. He has just
Close
enough
combat-
CC to dissuade your opponent from thinking it's almost a foolproof plan to send that maybe even martial arts 3 guy in. Because even then, it's like, ooh, maybe it's like a 65-35. And if I fail, my guy's probably dead. And then there's still a Razyat in my DZ.
Yeah, still a Razyat in your DZ. The other thing as well, especially with the Razyat, this I think does go for all parachutist deployment zone troopers. A really good habit of mine to get into with these troops, because parachutist deployment zone is such a it's a highlighted, spotlighted skill. Everyone knows every trooper with parachutist deployment zone in the fucking game. Everyone knows what factions they're in. Everyone is prepared for them. Notably, most opponents will prepare for them on turn 1, and then their first turn will happen, and they will move troopers. They will move their carefully deployed anti-Razyat net forward, and they will leave big holes in it. Turn 2 is the scariest time to deploy a trooper like this. You are losing an order on turn 1 and turn 2. That is a cost to pay for deploying it much more freely than you will on turn 1. So that is just something to. So if you are a newer player if you're just a newer player in general, a really great habit to get into is, look at the board at turn 1, see if there's somewhere for him to go. If there's not, don't stress, don't waste him, don't combat jump him in, don't risk it.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait till turn 2. Your opponent is going to make gaps for you.
All right. In saying that, Nick, you can now take us through maybe your new favorite unit in the game. I don't know.
What are we now, Nick? Fucking
I've enjoyed
6-0? Fucking 6-0, baby?
So yeah, due to statements made on the last episode, I've been running Margaret into Rockstum.
You took a comment very personally.
Similar to like the Raziat, where you've got the deployment zone parachutist, but in this case, their kit is a bit different, especially when you get to like Duroc, where he's can potentially appear with a lot more templates than most combat drop troopers could. I think he's one of the only deployment zone parachutists who kept templates.
Probably
in the edition change.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and at that, it's a chain rifle +1 burst and PS6 grenades on a Fizz 16.
He's spec firing those on 13s, people. 13s.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The one issue I get up and down, given they are 60 points, so they're kind of more telegraphed, but also they come in independently.
Yes.
You just have to buy them together. Which means when you bring one on, your opponent immediately knows that the other is their way. And sometimes that's worse.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I will say...
Yes, I have confirmed that Duroc is there waiting for a hole to get to.
Yeah.
Or even that Margot is... Considering she now comes on with Tac Aware, I've had some games where it's like, I have an extra order. Margot doesn't have anything to do, but she's got a grenade launcher and is currently spec fire that at close range.
Was she always BS14? Did that go up?
She was BS14, yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will say, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There is no subtlety with this at deployment, right? Like, you look at your opponent dead in the eye and they're like, how many troopers do I see? And you're like, 13.
Yes, but that's usually not what I tell my opponent. It's usually
Yeah.
you see 10 models and one in reserve, and then they go, oh.
Yeah, because of camo markers. They're like, yeah.
The beauty of this is you tell your opponent, you see 9 models and 8 camo markers. And you're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And then you bring in Margot and he's like, how the do you have Margot? And then Margot has a Tac Aware grenade launcher spec fire on your LT and you get really sad.
There is no subtlety with this at times. Like, if your opponent is playing against a faction that has Margot and Duroc now, they have to be critically aware of the fact that this unit exists. Otherwise, you are going to have the worst time imaginable. This is maybe, with the changes in N5, a bigger grown test than the Raziat. Like, the only thing they're lacking, I guess, is the jet propulsion on the super jump, because Margot doesn't have the super jump. Duroc has super jump with no jet propulsion, so they are more limited in their mobility as a group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also S5.
S6, so it's even worse.
S6, sorry, he's even bigger.
Yeah, versus last edition when I used him, like he was super jump 6'4". Now he's super jump 8'4". And there's ways the adding of special dice instead of true burst. Most of the time, I super jumped him into a fire team and he exploded and took 2 or 3 down with him. Now he might be only taking 3 shots, and he has 3 armor and an immunity to arm. So like, there's no AP. There's no explosion. There's no double action. If he can tank it on the chin, you're kind of screwed. So he is almost not even like a deployment check. He's almost a gear check. You can deploy well, and he can still mess you up.
Yeah, and I would be, I guess, remiss not to mention the horrible fucking gremlin voice of Rob Cantrell in the back of my head going, "He's Fizz 16 with grenades, Jordan. He's Fizz 16 with grenades."
Mhm.
Like, I assume, Nick, like, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a viable play path with Durok where he comes on and then spends 4 orders throwing grenades over a fucking wall, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
the other thing, I think I did last weekend. There was I think it was a Yauget
Yeah.
MSV2 sniper up in a tower, and I really needed not to have my opponent have an MSV model on the board.
Yeah, totally.
So brought Durok on, checked zone of control. Like, okay, I'm about 12 inches away from the Yaugat in its back, though it's on a roof. So
Yeah.
I'm going to super jump up in a small arc and land so that now I'm between 9 and 10 inches away from it and have seen it in its back. Which means it now just takes 2 saves from chain rifles with no arrow.
Yep.
Yeah, because you get the 10.25 inch range on the big template.
10.5 inch on the template.
Is it
and
10.5? Okay.
I think it's 10.5, and then you've got effectively, let's say, 8 inches of range from the first jump. It's
Well, it was like he's on a building. I just jump up, see him, and then drop back down.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about before.
Yep. And
Yeah.
and he gets a dodge at -3 or whatever, but
Not if it's more than 8 inches away in his back arc.
you get a dodge if a templates get put on you.
Yeah, you get a dodge if a template gets put on you, regardless.
Guys, Nick's a cheater.
Oh, I messed it up.
Oh, Nick!
Should I? Do you know what? I actually thought you were going in a completely different direction. I thought you were going to jump and like throw grenades from outside of 8, so he doesn't get a dodge. And you're sitting there going like, I'm hitting you on 10, so it's like a 50-50.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's way more inefficient.
Anyway.
Yeah, Margot and Dork is really good. It is a tag size investment, but the neat trick
In a faction that doesn't have tags, like
the neat trick that you can do is, since as Nick mentioned, they're separate troopers, you can at the start of the game pop one into group 1, keep the other in group 2, and now you've got effectively 15 orders, including their landing orders, to just be in your opponent's DZ. And if they've made a mistake, you can table them in a turn.
Absolutely. So okay. Like, I cannot think of a situation in which you would want to do this, but I am curious, because they are the 2 separate troopers, you can start one of them on the board and one off the table,
100%.
Right?
You can put Margot straight on the table.
Yep, sweet.
And just have her be a BS-14 chick on the table.
Yeah.
And then your opponent...
I don't know a universe where I would do that, but, like, it's neat that that's an option.
Just flex. Just absolutely flexing. Just Nick at CanCon, round 5, with his Wallace Facility list, and just a pure confidence, nothing more to prove, just deploys Margot on the table and just lets their opponent know that
2026 is the year of Nick just flopping his balls onto the table and going, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it?
Everyone's just going to be so confused and shocked that it's just win by
the most mild-mannered man you've ever met in his life just flopped his junk onto the table.
All right, well that's Mirage 5.
Absolutely.
Next, we're going to talk about a couple interesting ones. I might start with Lei Gong. He is a big old meme, let's be honest. But he's really interesting because he is such a hyper hard counter to certain things. So if you find in your meta that you're facing a ton of Blairs or like intruders or Vidocs, MSV AROs, Lei Gong will decapitate them so well because he's BS-13, he's albedo -6, he's immune arm, so he can try multiple times because he has 2 effective wounds. And if you spend enough points, you do get a he's parachutes. He does have an emitter, so you can like walk up behind and like emit or a Marut. He's just kind of an interesting choice, I think. In terms of like, he kind of fits that attack piece, but like very, very specifically, like my list is incredibly weak against MSV AROs, even though I don't know why Yujing would be weak against MSV AROs. But if it ever turns out to be that way, then Lei Gong is like the perfect counter to that.
Good Atlanta counter as well, Val.
Atalanta is Lei Gong is like the Atalanta counter, even if she's still shooting you on like 9s. Or better than 9s, 12s. She still basically makes it a fair fight. And the next one. I think this next troop, the Bashi Bazook, might be a contender for just like one of the best parachuters combat jump troops in the game.
So, like, it's going to be one of the best, but not because of being able to fucking parachute as Din. It's going to be one of the best because it deploys as 3 Saladins. What are you on?
Yes, it is multi-purpose.
This is going, like, I'm making a bold, fucking...
Claim?
No, what's the word for a guess?
Claim?
Yeah, no.
Prediction.
Oh my god! Wow, I have had a stroke today. I forgot the word prediction. Yeah, I'm gonna make a bold prediction for the next like 2 years of Infinity. Is that Bashi Bazooks are going to be deployed as Saladin more often than they're going to be deployed off the fucking table?
There's a reasonable chance that will happen. But let's take a look at it.
In vanilla, yes.
Let's say you're taking it into Shat. Now, it is irregular, but as we've said before, it's basically, not really, but basically using its own order to hit the table, which means the irregular discount is essentially free. For 14 points, you are either getting a surprise attack AP T2 boarding shotgun or a burst 3 T2 contender with 2 chain colts. That is insane for 14 points. The investment there is zilch, but it lands as much as the Garuda does. It doesn't move as fast as the Garuda, but for the first round of shooting, it is effectively as good as the Garuda. But it's got 2 templates and an APT2 boarding shotgun or a +1 burst contender, which is also T2. It can do 6 wounds if it shoots something in the back.
Yes. Nick, can you remind me, which one of Hollow Mask and Hollow Projector doesn't give you surprise attack? Or do they both give you surprise?
Hollow Mask doesn't.
Hollow Projector gives you it.
Yes.
Yeah. Hollow Mask does not give you surprise attack. So,
and I'm sure Nick is trying to mention this right now, but it also uses the Hollow Projectors to trip off any mines that might be in its range.
Yep.
Which is also really, really, really good. And it's 14 points. Your opponent probably won't even be able to tell that you're missing 14 points. I think they're really good anyway.
Yeah,
they're cool.
And like it's Fizz 10. It combat jumps on 11s, but that's most armies that you'll take it in. If you're going to combat drop it, probably have a reason to take an EvoBot anyways. So being able to switch that over if you decide you need it, 14s are more reliable.
It's just hilarious to think that there could be something you want to smack, and since it deploys with Hollow Projector, you just put 3 models like 4 inches away from an opponent's model and go, you can guess the 1 in 3. You have a 33% chance of picking the right one, and then you have to hit me, and then I have to fail the save. So realistically, we're looking at like maybe a 1 in 5 that if I throw this in front of you that it dies. I do have to land, obviously, so the math gets complicated, but the idea that you can do that, and you pretty much can't do that with any other drop troop, is insane. And then you activate it, and then your opponent goes, I know you have 2 templates, and I know you have a T2 boarding shotgun that's AP. What do I do? And then they freeze, and then the thing dies. I think they're sick. And you can take specialist ones.
I think they're going to spend a lot of time deployed as Saladin. And
They're gonna spend so much time deployed as Saladins. But the really cool thing is, if you get super confident that you don't think you need the Bashi, you can keep it off the table. Like, it's so multi-purpose, 100%. It's insane. And it's only 14 points. It's like the cost of a Morat Vanguard. It's so good. Anyway, I'm gushing too much. All right, let's talk about the next common one. And this is probably the one that most veterans take drop troops for. And it's going to be the Mobile Specialist. Now, the most recent addition into the game of Mobile Specialist. Now, I know the Cliff Jumper pretty much encompasses every goddamn role under the sun, but it does fit.
This is two really well. Two of the profiles are very good.
Yes, it does fit the role of a Mobile Specialist really well. It is cheap. It lands on really good numbers, being Combat Jump Phys 13. It has MIM. It dodges well. It has jet propulsion, so that it moves a standard 6-4 like most drop troops do. And it has a Killer Hacker profile and a Forward Observer profile. So it's just, it's good at pressing buttons.
I could definitely imagine next wave lists that actually just play two of these. You play Killer Hacker and you play the shooty one. And you're like a happy camper.
Absolutely. Yeah, so in terms of attack pieces, you have a 21-point Cliff Jumper profile. They can just drop 2 heavy flamethrowers. And you're like, oh my god, we were talking about how 2 chain rifles was sick on Duroc. 2 heavy flamethrowers is like 50% better than 2 chain rifles. Next, we've seen this if you watched Burn City Brawl, but the Crusher drop troop. This one is particularly good because it is fairly cheap at 27 points, and you're getting an unhackable 2 effective wound specialist that also has mimetism. And is just as fast as everything else, and it does a fair few classifieds because it is medium infantry and a veteran troop with decharges. It has a really good loadout. So, it doesn't take much for a drop troop to kind of be a good mobile specialist, because that's almost what they're built to do. But you'll find that things like Crushers do it really well, I think, because they can risk tanking an armor save. They have MIM and 2 wounds. The risk is a little bit less for them rather than troops like oh god, I don't know, really plain drop troops.
They also, being drop troops, appear much closer to that button you want to push.
Yeah.
So they require less orders to get there, and that means they're exposed less.
Absolutely. All right, now I want to talk about 2 really kind of unique ones that we don't see as often. Another one we've seen at BCB, which is the Meteor Zond, run by our champion Val. This is a flying sensor bot. Sensor bots are already good at pushing buttons, they're perfectly fine at pushing buttons, but they also bring really interesting stuff, like it's a Forward Observer, it has sensor, and it has triangulated fire. It brings a source of EM, which is really interesting, and it is also a repeater. All for the
Dante froths as it Meteor Zond as well.
Yes, and I think it's been buffed because I don't think it used to be Phys 12. Phys 12 is pretty good.
I don't recall. That sounds like it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, anyway, Phys 12 is definitely better than a Sensorbot's Phys 10. Yeah, I think these guys are kind of underrated, if I'm honest. They are instead of a walking toolbox, it's a flying toolbox. And it's as close as what you're going to get to a Imatron with a repeater.
One thing you have to be careful of is because yes, it is a combat jump repeater, but it is also hackable.
Yes.
So you have to position it such that it doesn't get turned off while it's getting there.
Yep. And lastly, I've put the Hellcat here because as a mobile specialist, it moves just as fast as everything else. However, you are getting a hacker profile for 22 points that naturally lands on 15s. So there's an extra added bit of reliability here for when you only have 1 or 2 orders left and you're forced to combat jump straight on the objective. There is much less failure state with a unit like the Hellcat than there is for other units as well. Which I think people underestimate the Hellcat specifically for that.
Is that the best possible? Hellcat has the best possible combat jump stat in the game?
It does, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I think you can get it to 17 with other models.
Yeah,
but 18 is just the Hellcat.
Yep. So the great thing is even with the your opponent knocking down your bonus, they'll be on a 12 at worst, which is really really good if we're honest.
It takes that risk factor down a considerable notch.
Yeah. And you're getting quite a cheap, the hacker profile's 22 points. A 22-point drop troop hacker is about on par. It feels like it's not paying for that bonus. And then you've got a 23-point paramedic that also comes with a deployable repeater, which is almost...
It is rare to see a hacker that cheap.
It is, on a drop troop.
Usually that's killer hacker prices.
Yeah, especially with the I feel like combat jump +3 is actually a highly expensive skill. But
maybe the 0.5 Swick is maybe helping. Oh no, that's just the hacker cost, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's weird. That is very undercosted.
Take advantage of it, guys. We all know Cricketor need the help. All right.
Fuck Cricketor.
Moving on from the mobile specialist, we have its little brother, the classified machine.
Jordan. These two categories are a circle, basically.
This is the thickest Venn diagram possible.
This is literally almost a circle.
Jordan, take us through your... you gushed over this a year ago. It's the Banshee.
No. So, I guess I need to come clean about this, because I wasn't super high on the Banshee for the first solid bit of N5. All my Pano lists were putting a Zulu Cobra Killer Hacker in instead. I can't remember what it was that actually changed my mind. I think it was when I actually just clocked how many classifieds these things do, and I haven't looked back since. So for those of you who don't... go ahead, Tristan.
I was going to say, so the Banshee does 11 classifieds.
Yeah, and it does insane.
Notably, what makes the Banshee, I think, really good over other units that do more classifieds is it does the MSV and the medium infantry classifieds, which is quite rare for a drop troop.
Yeah. It's huge. So yeah, the Banshee has a lot of very notable things. So it is Whip 13 in Pano, which especially in the operational learning era that we've entered is really, really good. It has D charges, a multispectral visor, is a medium trooper as well. And yeah, it is just genuinely maybe one of the best drop troops in the game. I think it's definitely inside the top 5, probably. I don't know if that's a bold declaration or not. But I love the Banshee something fierce. I'm seeing a lot of lists now that are actually running 2. I know Lockie Summer took 2 to BCB and said performed really, really well. I think he was taking 1 Killer Hacker and 1 Wild Parrot were the 2 that he was taking. And apparently it was gushing about how good it was, which is really, really cool to me. It's just the super jump. That's super jump jet propulsion just turning what would otherwise be a very slow specialist into a hyper-mobile get across the map in 2 to 3 orders. It's just so good. There's just really nothing but good things to say about the Banshee and what it does for Pano specifically as a faction. I guess from my gushing to Nick gushing about one of his favorite drop troopers.
Yeah, the along the same lines, the Fracta hacker is excellent at going through half the classified deck, in that it's medium infantry, it's a hacker, it comes with D charges, and it's 2 wounds, and when it loses a wound, it gets tougher. So,
yep.
It's always fun to have an opponent Trinity it and do a single wound, and then you have to explain that its BTS just doubled.
Yes. And just for all those listening, it does do specifically half the classified deck.
Mm-hmm.
For a measly 25 points. There are a
Yes.
couple missions in the ITS still that have quite a few classifieds. I think there's
Yeah.
2 or 3 that have 3
Mhm.
classifieds. Which means that these guys are still really, really good. Obviously, a third of the missions now are direct action, and they don't have a classified deck. So certain troopers that focus specifically on classified machines might drop off slightly, but it will completely depend on the mission count. And obviously, a Banshee and a Fractor can do other stuff aside from just classifieds. Like, they are all great mobile specialists, and the Fractor itself is a hacker that has 2 wounds, which is also just really good. And the Banshee has 2 pulsars, so it, like, at nothing, it can still drop in somewhere and just start pulsaring stuff. So we're going to move on to the real classified monsters, and they are, number 1, the Hisasan Rajik. Hisasan Rajik does 14 classifieds, which is 3 more than the Banshee. It is elite, medium infantry, and it is a hacker with decharges.
It's that elite tag. The elite tag just gets you a surprising amount of that deck.
It does. Such amazing thing about this is it's dogged and whip 15. So that's an extra 10% to do all those classifieds. You're going to get them done in one order way more often than they used to. And at the end of the day, it is a hacker with a boarding pistol. It has 2 armor. It lands on good numbers. It moves just as fast. It has stealth.
Better carbonite too.
It does have an upgraded carbonite. Really, really excellent. And again, 25 points for a drop troop whip 15 hacker is a pretty good deal. Like, you're not paying nothing for that whip upgrade. And then something that's kind of fell off, and that's the yellow jacket. The yellow jacket
didn't change between N4 and N5.
Maybe it never caught on, but it feels like it fell off.
Actually, I want to go have a look and see if it did actually change at all between N4 and N5.
The points value changed, and it gained a boarding pistol.
Did the points values actually change?
It was also one of the last
remember.
models out in N4, so most of its rules were written with N5 in mind.
Yeah. So the yellow,
Tristan, the points values did not change.
It's the same.
It is exactly the same.
So it does do 14 classifieds if you take the hacker variant. It does have MIM3. It is 2 wounds. It is 29 points, so it's a bit more expensive than other stuff. But if you're playing Torchlight and there's 3 classifieds, I don't think this is a bad option. And
no.
Yeah, so some people might make fun of you because it's a hackable drop troop. But if you're taking a hacker drop troop, it's hackable anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to something rather interesting. It is the mobile smoke thrower. Someone else can take us through this one. I'm tired of talking.
I can do this one.
Yeah, go ahead. This is not an example I've used.
No, that's totally fine. So something you can do now is you have these troopers who come on and start throwing smokes or start doing some covering their own approaches or covering the approaches of other troopers. One that I've had used against me many times now this edition is the fat yarn coming in off the side of the table. Just 6 or 7 points is up there for like the cheapest smoke in the game. Like that's up there with Shaolin monks in terms of cost, and they deploy anywhere on that deployment on those board edges. It's hard to go past it. They're so cheap. They're so efficient. You can combat jump them on Fizz 11 if you feel like it. Like, I'm not saying you should do that very often, but it is definitely an option of like, I need a yarn here to put smoke here. That is something you can do. There's nothing but sort of good things to say.
They're also at Fizz 14 for throwing that smoke.
Yep.
So they're up there with some of the most reliable smoke in the game.
Yeah, big time. They're also CC22 with a DACCW if you take the 7-point. Like, it's a 7-point dude that just bullies like Fusiliers and stuff in a deployment zone really efficiently. And has booty as well, so sometimes when it drops down, it will just pull a HMG out of its ass. I've seen that happen.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then on the other end of the spectrum and being more expensive, you have the Crusader Brethren who come down. They are military orders exclusive. I would do I would do some pretty horrible things actually if I could have these in
In
vanilla
vanilla
Pano.
Pano, no.
Oh, be so good. Be so good. But yeah, they are more expensive, but they have access to disco bowlers and a plethora of interesting profiles.
The great thing about the Crusaders are the BS13.
Yeah.
And plus the double shot and the +3 range band of disco bowlers means that you can pretty reliably get smoke wherever you need it to get.
Yep.
After you've launched your smoke, he is a Berserk MA2 with an EMCCW, which is the best CC weapon in the game.
Yep.
He's still super jumping 6'4". He's a BS13 boarding shotgun. He has D charges. He's a veteran with medium infantry, so he also does a number of classifieds. He has 3 armor, which is like,
it's a sweet spot.
It's
no 3 armor. 3 armor is a sweet spot.
Yeah, he's 23 points, which is quite cheap.
Yep.
The Spitfire is 31 points, which doesn't feel cheap. But as a landable disco baller, I think he's the only drop troop in the game with a disco baller. And I
believe so.
I think it's like, it's just another way for MO to just now not do the Pano thing and win more games.
Yeah, it's really he's a super interesting profile. And the only thing that is going to like actually hold him back from being in lists is the fact that there is so much good stuff in military orders now. He's actually really fighting for airspace, especially with Trinitarians after the like bevy of upgrades they've received. But I think people are going to really get caught out by the Crusader Brethren because I don't think people are expecting it.
Absolutely not. Throughout N4, like, you'd look at the profile once and completely forget about it. That's how bad it was. Now it's pretty damn good.
Combat jump parachutist disco balls that land on 16s.
Yeah.
You're going to be outside your reload range, but not sure if it matters.
Even at a squeeze, you can reload him with speedballs.
Yeah.
I think it's overkill. I can't remember which. There's one that cancels. There's one that cancels the empty state, whatever it's called.
Yes, I think that might be overkill.
Unloaded state. That's what it is. You can cancel. Yeah. I'm 95% sure that you can.
No,
do it with
there is one that does that.
Yeah.
So at a squeeze, if you do a second combat jump, you can reload your disco balls.
God, I just looked at the next slide. Tristan's gonna have to read this one. I'll be sick if I have to read this one.
I'm vain, so I have to add my little dudes. Next, we're going to talk about is maybe not as common.
Wonderful.
Well, yeah, I was going to say maybe not as common as a role, but it still kind of exists, and that is the drop troop assassin. Normally,
in brackets, vanity piece.
Yes, most of them are vanity pieces if they're purely for that role. Luckily, most drop troops aren't purely for that role, but Curvo definitely is purely an assassin. Typically, the assassin role's filled with like Fidays, impersonators, and like over-infiltrators like Shinobu and stuff like that. Maybe even things like Van Zant and Margot, because anything that's more guaranteed to land, because the unreliability of actually killing something coupled with the unreliability of landing doesn't give you as much reliability as you're comfortable with, usually. Which is probably why Curvo has remained a bit of a niche pick. He has a great stat line. He's 2 effective wounds. He's 13s across the board. His martial arts is like top 10 in the game. I know that might not be saying much, but maybe even top 5 in the game. Because he has that monofilament CCW and a PS4 DA CCW, he could fill a lot of roles with that. At a squeeze, he has D charges.
Having both helps a lot.
Yes. He's Shinobu wishes she had a DA CCW at PS4. He can, since he's Fizz 13, he can land on a 16, and I've had this happen. I just drop it behind a tag. The tag made 3 rolls throughout the entire game. The first roll was to dodge, the second roll was to face me in combat, and the third roll was to die. Which is definitely what happens, because you've got critting on 26s with monofilament and 2 natural dice. Most people are making 3 monofilament saves each time he smacks something. So he's really good at deleting stuff. Unfortunately, that's kind of all he's good at. And he is 33 points, so he's pretty expensive. something that feels a little bit more natural to take, who's also 33 points, is going to be Raoul Spectre. Now, I've kind of put Raoul as an assassin because it might seem like first instinct for a beginner to take him that way. He's 2 wounds, he's Mim 6, and he has really reliable drop bears with good kit because he's got a burst 3 boarding shotgun, and he also has an upgraded boarding pistol. His CC weapon is an EMCCW, which we all know is just insane. His close combat is through the roof. He has stealth. He moves 8-2 if he super jumps, and he's not hackable. He gets that a little bit of that irregular discount because of the nature of drop troops. He dodges really well against shooting attacks, and he's a specialist, kind of rounding him out as maybe not just an assassin, but can kind of do anything. So if you don't find the opportunity to use him in that way, you can just use him to press a button and just be a Mim 6, 2 wounds menace kind of on the field. And even more surprisingly, actually, he's not like pseudo 2 wounds. He's not NWI Shockamoon. He's fully 2 wounds. So he takes 2 wounds and goes unconscious. You can actually like bring him up, or like he's not off the table. He's still in the game. Raoul's kind of nuts if you think about it. Like, you're getting a lot. Like, a Mim 6 drop troop seems unfair sometimes. Everyone is shocked.
It's just, yeah, it's, look, you know, they definitely have a place in lists. They definitely have a place in, you need to be very, very sure it's a piece that you want to take. It is a finesse piece in like the truest sense of the word. Like, you are taking this as a scalpel. It is not a blunt instrument. If you misplay with a piece like Quiver or like Raoul, you are going to have a bad time. But the rewards you can end up getting from doing well and exploiting a weakness or a gap with a piece like these are going to set you up for so long.
Yeah. Like, if you're playing Annihilate, like, the best time to take one of these guys, you're playing Annihilation, you know, there's going to be, like, Annihilation promotes taking big, stompy, killy stuff. It also means that, like, if you know what your opponent's LT is, you can go hunting for it. And again, like Jordan says, you don't have to use it turn 1. You might be really tempted to, like, being like, oh my god, there's a tag, let me shoot it, let me kill it. You don't have to.
These are super, like, under the table pieces as well. No one expects these vanity pieces to show up. Like, people expect a Razgat, people expect Margot and Darok. I don't think anyone is going to... Is he Vanilla O12 as well, or just Star Martyr, sorry?
He's only Vanilla
just
O12.
Star Martyr, yeah. Yeah, only Vanilla O12. Like, I don't think anyone's going to look twice at, like, a Vanilla O12 list putting 14 models on the table.
No.
Or at the very least, I don't think they're ever going to expect Cuervo. Same with Tunguska. Like, no one expects Raoul Spectre. Val is the only person I have ever met who is determined to put that man on the table. Like, that gives them a level of, like, surprise factor that you're just not going to get out of a piece like a Raziat. You are going to genuinely unsettle some people when you put a piece like this on the table.
Yes. Yep. All right. So next up, it's really funny because we call them assassins, but they're really, really loud. And we're going to be talking about the two, well, let's say the most important two, because I don't think the cash scoot is important.
So this is an assassin piece in the same way that a grenade is like technically a stealth weapon.
Yeah.
It's like the old like D&D like 3.5 rules where like anything can get sneak attack.
Yes. Yep. So we're talking about the Luging and the Tar Yacht. Nick, you've had much experience with the Tar Yacht, I think. Tell us what makes it so good.
Please talk us through blowing people up.
I don't actually think combat jump explosion is all that good.
Shocker, Nick. A single PS8 save that can be dodged on a flat fizz roll and they land on like a 10.
So, firstly, you can get them a -3 on the dodge roll if you combat jump in their back arc.
That's true.
Because react to that. The issue I have with combat jump explosion is there's only one type of model in the
Oh,
and that's Evo hackers.
There's only one type of model in the game that what does?
That I want to use combat jump explosion on, and that's Evo hackers.
Right, yes.
Because of the dodge issue.
Yes.
So if they pass their dodge, not only have they avoided the explosion, they've just moved into combat with you, and you have to figure out what to do there. Neither of these models are great in close combat.
That is a problem. That is a problem.
However, the interesting thought with the Evo is that you can fork them effectively, because either they can put up controlled jump, or they can dodge
at a -3.
Yes, so either they can give you a -3 to your combat jump, or they can take a dodge at a -3 to not die to the combat jump, because the Evos typically don't have that whole armor thing. But you're also correct. It's not a very large template relative to the model that's the proximity of the model to make it happen. And it's a normal PS8 save. So, I think it's more of a trap, but sometimes it can be the right call if you give your opponent the choice of, if you dodge, now you can't ARO something else, or you let me have this model next to the ARO piece that I want to nullify.
Yeah.
Yep. So, kind of in saying that, this is one where the Talyot definitely fills multiple roles, and you're putting it in your list kind of, I think, as like an 8-2 specialist, because it's 18 points for a drop troop. It lands on decent numbers. It's really fast. It has Dogged. It has Warhorse, which sometimes matters. It also has a template. But if you find that you don't need it, you can also just yeet it as an explosion, or as like a really last ditch kind of like comeback effort to like put your opponent in loss, or get your opponent off a button, or like kill someone who's holding a supply beacon or something like that.
But also counterpoint.
Yeah.
That 16.1 fucks with people.
Yeah, I think the paramedic is nice if they're like the third one to get a specialist in there.
They are AVA 3, yes.
The BS attack +1 burst with more non-lethal weapons than Morats have ever seen.
Yeah.
It's one of the few models in the game that by itself can fully brick a tag.
Yep.
Because it can both immobilize it A and B.
Yes.
Yep. Which means it can only dodge and it can only reset, and those both don't overlap. So now it can do nothing.
It can, something that some people might not know as well, is it can do a lethal fork ARO as well, because the boarding pistol does have a hit mode, which is something I have learnt that not everyone knows. So you do have a face-to-face fork option when you round a corner, and a burst 2 boarding pistol is a scary fork.
So even the boarding pistol itself forks, because at +1 burst, you've got a burst 2 template or a burst 3 direct.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, that is what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah.
It also has
on top of
the really stupid thing of remote presence and Dogged.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes.
So it is only one structure.
2 wounds. I'm still going.
But it can take 1 wound and go unconscious. He can take another wound and go unconscious too, and then go Dogged. In which case it's still alive, which means you effectively either need to deal 2 wounds to it, one after the other, or deal 3 wounds to it in a single order to get it completely off the table. So a lot of the time it's going to ARO you twice, which means it's going to be a pain in the ass twice.
There's some immense like Danny DeVito. Anyway, I started blasting. Half its head missing.
Yeah. And it does have the nice benefit of, while it is a remote, it does have BS6 or BTS6.
Yes.
So
And Warhorse.
it's and Warhorse. So it's a bit more resistant to hacking than most hackable drop troops.
Absolutely. Carbonite's on a 7, so it's 13s twice if it lands, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Nick, I need you to tell the class, in case anyone is doubting how much you do like this model, how many dropsuit tiles do you own, Nick?
I have 2 painted.
And you have a third as well, don't you?
Possibly.
You own 3? Pretty sure you own 3.
It wasn't in the list yet.
Yeah.
Because the last time I ran them, I ran 2 of the +1 BS, or +1 burst, and then 1 paramedic. So I used the
same model twice?
Fracta. I used a Fracta for the paramedic to differentiate them.
So you did run 3 though?
Yeah.
Yes. I have run 3 of these.
Yep.
Do not doubt how much this man loves a fucking dropsuit tie out.
The list did have a Braziad in it as well.
Dude.
For 4 combat jump models.
This is why you're the master of drop troops.
Disrespectful.
The last, some of you say thankfully, I say not enough. The last troop we're talking about is the Lu Jing. He is also a combat jump explosion. Quite uniquely, he lands on 14s. He is HI with 2 effective wounds. He is not. He is a shock immune. Sorry, he is shock immune. At maximum speed, he can super jump 8 and then dodge 4. So he can have motorbike speed sometimes if he's required to do that. You can have a really cheap 24-point boarding shotgun and boarding pistol profile. So you've got basically a flying Zuyong that can explode, but it can also just be a real pain in the ass. But one of the most interesting drop troop profiles I've ever seen is going to be the 30-point hacker with firewall -6 and a boarding shotgun and a boarding pistol. All for 30 points and half a swick. That's really like cool and like sometimes just obnoxiously like you can oblivion me. I'm just spotlighting you or something ridiculous, and you're spotlighting. I'm spotlighting you on a 13. You're hitting me on like a 7.
Yeah.
And it really just like, even if you're taking that one to just shoot stuff and be annoying, it kind of just cancels out the fact that it's hackable, because 10-point -6 is kind of egregious sometimes.
Yeah, especially in heavy infantry.
Yeah.
And, actually, more so on hackers.
Yeah.
Who are shooting or hacking back.
I know specifically for Invincible Army, like Lu Jing is really, really good because it makes up for a lot of the weaknesses. They also do a lot of classifiers because it's HI veteran. There is a decharge profile. You're not taking that too many of the times, but if you do take the specialist operative, it does have a multi-rifle. So it can just murder through parts of the table, and it is landing on the second most reliable number in the game. And then sometimes you just throw it at your opponent and go, I'm combat jumping on a 17, and you can shoot me, and that's kind of fine because I'll live, or you can dodge into me, and I'm CC 19, so I'm like kind of okay. Not really, but kind of. I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah,
I wouldn't throw that into CC.
Yeah, there are definitely people I know who self-identify as, I'm a Lu Jing dude. This is part of my personality.
Oh, yeah.
These are lists that I build.
We're going to go back to last CanCon.
But person in the audience, you know who you are. Sorry,
not last CanCon, last Border Bash. I was driving home with Jacob, and Jacob fucking loves the Lu Jing. I'm like, bro, it's fine. He's like, no, he super jumps 8 and I shoot everything in the back and no one beats it. It's fucking amazing. I'm like, okay, it's just a drop troop, man.
There are people where this is their personality.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely worse drop troops.
Yes.
All right. So, very long-windedly, we have gone through some roles, some common roles that you're going to be taking drop troops as. The reason we did that, in case you've forgotten, which I wouldn't blame you, is because your drop troops need to have a very specific or very well-chosen role in your list. You're taking them for a reason, and you need to know what reason you're taking them for. So now we're going to move on to some common drop troop issues. The first one is one that Nick is completely immune to, and that is taking too many drop troops. Usually, too much of a good thing is bad for you. Every extra drop troop that you take is diminishing returns, which means that it's going to be harder for you to pull the resources out of it that you need to. Nick is you're kind of famous for running 3+ off the table things and kind of making it work.
In the last year, I've been running several lists that have 4 combat jump models or parachutist models.
I don't think you would say it's optimal, but you've just learned really, really well how to be efficient with it.
Yeah. Because you don't have orders from them in your order pool until they show up. So you have to be incredibly order efficient. But apparently, and I didn't realize until I wrote the whole last section of this, I'll admit, I actually have a fair amount of experience with combat drop models now.
You're only realizing that now. You spent the whole of N5 running like insane amounts of drop troops.
Yeah, I still remember at CanCon, like your takeaway from like CanCon was you going, maybe adding the 5th drop troop to my list the day before the event wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, maybe 2 fractures and 3 noctipus wasn't great.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's now 4. 4 is my limit.
Yeah.
4 is a sweet spot.
That was just, I don't know why that, like, I think we were walking to dinner and I like actually had to stop walking and just lean against the fucking pole for like a couple of minutes after that one.
And I lost to it. I was feeling so high, man. I'm like, I killed stuff straight to dead with the Swiss Guard. That was great. And then Nick's like in the last turn, like, hey man, I got two things still off the table. I'm like, what the fuck?
He said it in such a deadpan voice too, because he's just like, I think maybe adding the 5th drop troop to the list the night before the event, I really didn't think that through as much as I maybe should have, just a small change. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Oh, it broke me.
All right. This is one that I think is actually going to be kind of common, and it's the wrong combat group. So let's imagine that you really want to use your drop troop turn 1. That's your game plan. So you put it in your big group. If you think about it like this, you're going to have a 9-6 split. And I'm going to tell you you're going to have a 9-6 split because that's the correct amount of models to put in each group. Now, that's actually an 8-6 split because your unit's off the table. And then you're going to get docked, which means that you're only going to start with 6 orders in each group. 6 orders might be enough orders to kind of do what you want to do, but then everything that you've used to do that thing with is now just sitting either in the middle of the table, or you failed to do it and you ran away and you've just wasted your turn. So realize that your command tokens aren't like amazingly precious resources. Put your drop troop into group 2, and if you realize you really need to do something with it turn 1, just flick it over into the big group. It's not a big deal. That's the reason why we have 9-6 splits in the first place.
That is a reason. That is something that I think a lot of people forget about drop troopers. It's like, look, you can just spend the command token while it's off the table to move it between groups. That is something you can just do.
Yep. And finally, we've talked about it a little bit, but don't put the whole world on your drop troop shoulders. You need to go into a game with a reasonable expectation that they're going to do something, like they're going to do a bit of something. Like, usually the heavy hitters of your list are going to be like the things that you spend massive points on. Drop troops, you're not usually spending that amount of massive points on. Sometimes you just need that yarn to land like a smoke grenade. But if you depend on that yarn to 100% need to land that smoke grenade, you might not have the best game relying entirely on a 7-point unit to throw a Fizz 14 smoke, or even to land where you need to land him.
Yeah, that it's the stacking. So you have PS14 smoke after your PS11 drop.
All right. We're moving on to a new segment now that I don't think Nick changed the name of, but it's called Nick's Notions because I looked up synonyms for thoughts, and the first one with N was notion, so that's what I chose.
There are some Irish people watching us who are very confused right now.
So, as mentioned, I've been running a lot of aerial deployment troops this past year. So I kind of collected together, in no particular order, a bunch of thoughts on recommendations on how to run them from my experience this last year. So the first one is have a plan for when you expect to use your aerial deployment troop and know when to break that plan. So we already talked about know what you want the troop to do, but having a plan on when you expect to come in is also important. So for instance, with a Raziat, normally with a Raziat, I expect to bring it in on turn 2. On turn 1, my expectation is that my opponent will still have a patched deployment zone and be prepared and overly prepared for it. But on turn 2, they'll have moved stuff forward, and now there will be gaps for it. But that still means I look at my opponent's deployment zone on turn 1 and go, there's a Raziat-sized hole here. You've got a blind spot. And I can fit a Raziat into that. So having the plan, but also knowing when to alter that. Similar could be on turn 2, look and go, there's not a good target of opportunity, and there's too much of the deployment zone being watched, so I'll save that for turn 3. We kind of mentioned it a little bit, but know what to expect out of your aerial deployment troop and recognize when it's completed its goals. So, for example, I've been running a paracommando forward observer. Walk them on, do the forward observer classifieds, but at that point, its job is done. It's expendable. So I no longer need to try to preserve it. I can be riskier with it and just make the board less, make the board more difficult to work for my opponent. So it's completed all of its objectives. Now I can just reposition it into an area where leave it there and let it be my opponent's problem.
Yep.
This one was probably took a longer time to get my head around. Aerial deployment troops don't have to kill enemy models to make their points back.
No, absolutely.
They don't have to push buttons to make their points back. They're 8 inches away. A Bashi, over the course of the game, will generate at most 3 orders. If I can make my opponent spend 3 orders to safely remove that Bashi, I've broken even. It's removed as many orders as it could possibly contribute to me. So while there may be the same number of models, it's removed the amount of work that those models my opponent have to do. Not only that, it's instead of having 3 orders spaced out over the turn, it's taken 3 orders out of a single turn.
Yes, which is far more impactful.
Yes.
I would like to kind of...
Sorry, hang on 1 second.
Go for it. I would say as well that like there is the possibility there that like you've put an ARO piece in a spot that would take multiple orders for you to get there as well. And if the Bashi gets lucky and kills something, then the reward has gone through the roof, and your opponent has not just wasted orders, but has lost future orders and has lost an entire model.
Yes. Yeah. So there are different ways to make the model's value worth what you took. And while killing the enemy model is the more direct way, sometimes just draining orders from their pool and then dying is more effective than killing the opponent's model.
Yeah, I would say as well for a new player, like as you said earlier, like know when your trooper has done its job. You can leave that paracommando there, just leave it there, and instead of you spending another order on it, getting unlucky and it dying, your opponent spends another order to then kill it, and that's a difference of you being an order down and your opponent being an order down, which is effectively 2 orders different, but the only thing you did was take your foot off the gas. All right.
So the next one, it's more for classifieds than offense. And that's understanding what the stunned state, or understanding the stunned state, and also what the stunned state does not prevent you from doing. What can you still do while stunned? Because flashbots tend to be the most common board edge arrow. So they're usually easiest ones. They can be positioned anywhere because really they're not going to be moving. They're just generating order. And they might as well watch the board edge because most things that come on as a parachutist don't want to be stunned because that means they can't attack. But there are a lot of things that aren't attacks. Notably, 12 of the 20 classifieds don't require you to perform an attack.
That's insane to me.
So, another example from last weekend's games had Net Undermine and brought Duroc on to do it because he's a character, therefore a veteran. So, if he comes on in an area where he's only seen by a flashbot, sure, he'll take a free flash. He saves on a 10, and if he successfully saves, he then can Net Undermine on a 13. If he fails and gets stunned, he can still Net Undermine on a 10.
Yep.
Not the greatest odds, but there was nothing that my opponent could do to actually stop that procession, only do slight changes in the odds.
Absolutely.
This is probably one of the reasons that I feel comfortable running that many drop troops, and that's learn to play 14 and 13 order lists.
That's just good Infinity habits, boys.
Yeah. So in N4, a lot of my lists I played were 14 order lists. Partly in the I have that kind of specter of, is there something you haven't seen yet? But it actually ended up making me more comfortable running 14 orders or 13 orders in a list, which means now if I run 1 or 2 drop troops, they're a bonus. If I can run comfortably a 14 order list, then running a 15 order list with 1 model off the board is the same as running a 14 order list, but I still have something extra. So it's almost a bonus on top of running the 14 order list that I'm already comfortable with.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if that quite made sense.
Yeah. You're almost used to playing 14 and nothing order lists.
Yes.
So now 14 plus 1, holy shit, I got a free order. Or a free thing to spend stuff on. You're used now to playing 12 order lists. Like, what did you do?
Well, it means I don't feel like I'm in a rush to get that combat drop model on the board.
Yeah.
Because I'm okay and comfortable with running without it. So I can be more selective in when I bring it on.
This is also a really great time to plug. If you want to become better at running 14 or 13 order lists, I think a great thing that helps you there is learning how to write a good group 2, because running 13 or 14 orders doesn't necessarily mean sacrificing the potential of your group 1. It's more recalculating what is going to be, good as your group 2. Almost said that really weird. But basically, writing a good group 2 is going to really let you take advantage of that 13, 14 order list, because you're still going to try and have a really good group 1. So go back, I think it's 20 episodes now, and watch our first Back to Basics on group 2s. I think it still holds up, even though it was in N5, but it was back with turrets.
It was in N5. The main difference is that turrets were changed. But yeah, the basic concepts still hold.
Absolutely. Go back and watch that.
So next up, I've got recognizing when a realized threat is greater than a nebulous threat. So, especially with like Margot and Duroc, especially once you've brought one on, it's like, say you've brought Margot on, your opponent knows Duroc is there, but it's still nebulous on where is it going to pop up. And I've found that in some games, it's better for me to say the end of my turn, when I'm just out of orders, deploy Duroc in the back of their army and say, your issue. Would you like to dedicate all the orders during your turn to go kill a 2 wound, 3 armor total or immunity armor model who will kill models that come close to him? Or would you like to leave him there and then he just has bonus orders because he's in your deployment zone and impetuous?
Yes.
And if I deploy him in a spot where he's close enough that he can easily chew through models on my next turn, but my opponent is going to require an extra order or 2 to get the right models to him to counter him, then it comes back to he can eat more orders than he'll ever generate.
It also gives me the idea of just like being really like petty and like throwing down Margot as like the last thing in your turn within kind of range of something important. And your opponent goes, I don't kill this or I don't move it. I'm just going to take spec fires until that thing dies.
Yes. Yeah. And with Margot, she comes on with Takaware, so you can give them a sample.
You give them a sample,
what type
yeah.
of spec fires
That's so good. All right, guys. We still have more.
Yep. Okay. There's 2, and then there's one that I thought of halfway through the episode. Using your 80 troops as arrows. This kind of ties into some of the previous, and this is what I would use like the Terriot for, especially the non-lethal version where it's like I can do non-lethal direct weapons, I can do non-lethal templates, I can do lethal templates, I can do lethal direct weapons. Especially during, say, either like bottom of 1, top of 2, where your opponent started to commit where they're sending their troops and what path they're taking there. So if they've picked, I guess, do example, if there's if there's 3 lanes and they've picked the one that has your worst arrows and commit to it and start moving troops up it, and suddenly an arrow piece appears in their path, now their budget for orders has been thrown off. They have to reevaluate, do I stick with this because I've already committed to it, or do I have to abort that and go over to a different approach, which is going to take me orders to get to, but be an easier approach because that's now the lesser arrow path. Similar to like the Banshee or the Duroc in their back of, I've now got an arrow piece that you didn't see coming, but you now have to spend extra orders before you can get back to what you originally planned. And if I can drain enough orders, then the troops have done their job.
a lot of people will also see
Hmm.
free things to shoot at and think
Mhm.
it's good to shoot at them. When in
Mhm.
reality, like sometimes just killing stuff like a char yacht or a flash pulse bot, if it takes 2
Mhm.
or 3 orders,
Isn't worth it.
it can lose
Mhm.
you the game in extreme circumstances because
Mhm.
you think I'm getting rid of my opponent's order, but those 3 orders might have been really important when you failed 2 button presses later on in the turn, or you can't put
Mhm.
your guy away, or you can't get your Swiss Guard in camo, or something along those lines.
If you expend 3 orders on a trooper killing a flash pulse bot, you have spent the same number of orders as that flash pulse bot would have generated over the course of the game.
Yes.
It
Yep.
has probably already generated some of those orders.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes like it's not uncommon that flashbots kind of just do dumb shit. Like,
Oh yeah, if you're shooting a flash pulse bot at like 33 inches with not a multi-sniper rifle, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself about what you are willing to commit to a bit.
yep,
Like last, don't forget to bring them on,
Yep.
very important.
because sometimes there are games where it's going well and you just there's never a point where it's more efficient to bring on your combat drop troop than it is to not bring them on. But if they're still off the table at the end of the game, they count as dead and you lose VP for it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
in turn
don't
3,
do nothing with them. Do
yes,
something.
well, if nothing else, if it's bottom of turn 3 and you still haven't brought them on, just put them on your board edge so you don't lose the VP.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And the one that you brought to my mind during the episode, know when to abandon your failed combat jump model and make it an order monkey. So sometimes if you need that combat drop troop to drop like in your opponent's DZ to say you push a button that's over there or recover an objective that's over there, and they fail and they're on the opposite side of the table, it might be more efficient just to leave them there and have them generate a regular order the rest of the game.
Absolutely.
The number of orders get there may be more than if you sent and reassigned one of your midfield models to that same objective.
Mm. I think that is kind of like maybe the most common thing is you kind of get in a role with a drop troop and you want to keep spending orders on it. But the most important thing is really just knowing when to stop. Like,
yes,
even like hard example, Hervo, I'm going to be biased. Hervo drops down and does what he's supposed to do. Even units like Shinobu, if Shinobu kills what she's aiming for, if a Fade or a Speculo takes out something, you don't need to spend any more orders on it. I played a game against Dante where a Speculo stabbed his tag and somehow survived 3 shots. And I went, cool. He's your problem now. He can stay there. I'm now going to spend the rest of my orders on other stuff because that's way more efficient. But you really,
the most you will
really get
maybe
bloodthirsty.
do is like just recamo it, and that's it.
Yeah, like
Just
think about it, because once you've completed the goal, take a step back and think, what's the next goal? Is the next goal to continue with the drop troop? Is that the most efficient thing? Or like my drop troop did stuff to you. What about if you have a drop troop and you do stuff to me?
Yeah.
Or, playing the mission. Playing the mission's the most important part.
a really good way or a good habit to try and get into, especially with drop troops and stuff like this. When you have achieved the goal, stop spending orders on that troop and spend some orders doing something else for a couple, and then return to that drop troop. Like, because you will get into like a spiral of like, well, I spent the order, it did a thing. I spent the order, it did a thing. I spent the order, it did a thing. Oh no, my like lieutenant has his dick in the wind now because I didn't spend an order to put him away.
Yep. It happens all the time.
Happens to everyone. Happens to the best players. It happens to the worst players. Infinity players will spend 10 orders on a trooper and go, where did my order pool go?
Lovely. Well, everyone, if you've listened to 2 hours of Drop Troops, thank you very much. If anything, I hope that you are all inspired to try and test Drop Troops at the very least. They are a really interesting and potentially, I'm not going to say unique, but fairly unique aspect of Infinity and kind of wargaming in general. Get out of the safe space. Hidden deployment's super cool. We love it. But it doesn't
these days in their safe spaces.
it doesn't bring that risk reward that combat jump does. There is like so many things can happen when you have an American table and a Garuda Spitfire. Oh my god. And it's just a like some people you'll have preconceived notions from N4 if you're an N4 player that Drop Troops may be a kind of niche in general. I don't think that's really a thing anymore. Drop Troops in N5 are sick. And if your faction doesn't really have access to Super Jump, or even just plain Super Jump, you'll find that Super Jump jet propulsion is actually cooked. It is so good.
Not having the mental load with Super Jump jet propulsion of having to like show your opponent that you are moving in an arc and you are not trying to like curve the bullet. Being able to go, yeah, now we're curving the fucking bullet. It makes life so much easier.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. I've been Tristan.
I've been Nick.
And I've been Jordan.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
See you next time.